In a distant future where humanity had reached the stars, Kale was a well-known mercenary roaming the galaxy. He traveled from planet to planet, taking on jobs that paid well, but he had never been one to get involved in the affairs of royalty. That all changed one sunny afternoon at a bustling spaceport. Kale was leaning against a wall, sipping a drink and watching the crowd. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved around him, each with their own stories and adventures. He enjoyed the excitement of the spaceport, where anything could happen. Just as he was about to leave, a man in a dark cloak approached him, his eyes scanning the area nervously. "Kale, I have a job for you," the man said, his voice low and urgent. Kale raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What kind of job?" "It involves a prince," the man replied, glancing over his shoulder as if afraid someone might hear. "Prince Alarin of Erlon has been kidnapped by a powerful warlord named Zorath. If you can rescue him, the reward will be substantial." "Prince, huh?" Kale said, crossing his arms. "What's the catch?" "The prince is to be married off to an alien bride as part of an intergalactic alliance. You must bring him back before the wedding takes place," the man explained. Time is of the essence, Kale thought for a moment. The promise of riches was tempting, but the thrill of a rescue mission excited him even more. "All right, I'm in," he said, shaking the man's hand. "Where do I find this warlord?" The man handed Kale a small holodevice showing the coordinates of Zorath's fortress on the planet Erlon. "Be careful. Zorath is ruthless, and his fortress is heavily guarded." After gathering his gear, Kale boarded his ship and set off for Erlon. As he traveled through space, he wondered what awaited him on the distant planet. He had heard stories about Erlon, its beautiful landscapes and strange creatures, but he also knew Zorath was a dangerous enemy. Kale felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. Upon landing on Erlon, Kale stepped out of his ship and took in the scenery. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of blooming flowers. He could see mountains in the distance, and a vibrant forest stretched out before him. But he had no time to admire the view. He needed to find the prince. Kale set off toward Zorath's fortress, gathering information along the way. The locals were hesitant to talk, fearing Zorath's wrath. But Kale's reputation as a skilled mercenary opened a few doors. After hours of searching, he found a tavern filled with alien traders. He approached a group of traders, ordering a drink as he listened to their conversations. One trader, a gruff alien with green skin, mentioned the fortress. "Zorath is planning a grand wedding," he said. "The prince has no chance of escape." Kale felt a rush of determination. Had to act quickly. After gathering more details, he learned that the fortress was heavily guarded, and any attempt to infiltrate it would require careful planning. He knew he couldn't do it alone. As night fell, he scouted the fortress from a safe distance. Tall walls and patrolling guards looked daunting, but Kale was determined to rescue the prince. Suddenly, he spotted a small figure sneaking around the side of the fortress. Curious. He approached and discovered it was a small alien named Zorla. She looked nervous but also determined. When she noticed Kale, her eyes widened. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice shaky. "I'm Kale, a mercenary." "I'm here to rescue Prince Alaron," he replied. "Do you know how I can get inside?" Zorla hesitated for a moment before nodding. "I can help you. I work for Zorla, but I want to escape too. If you take me with you, I'll show you how to get in." Kale studied her. She was not what he expected. Her features were considered unattractive by human standards. But there was something about her that intrigued him. "All right, Zorla. You help me and I'll help you escape," he said, realizing they might just make a good team. With a plan forming, Kale felt a spark of hope. Together, they would rescue the prince and confront the warlord Zorath. As they made their way toward the fortress, Kale couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of an incredible adventure. He was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united with an unlikely ally. Kale and Zorla crept through the dense underbrush as they approached the formidable fortress of Zorath. The massive stone walls loomed above them, casting long shadows in the fading light. Kale felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. This was it. Moment they would attempt to rescue Prince Alarin. "Stay close to me," Kale whispered to Zorla. "We need to be careful. The guards are probably on high alert. Zorla nodded, her large eyes scanning the area. I know a small entrance on the east side. It's less guarded, and I can guide you there. They moved silently through the trees, the sounds of the forest surrounding them. Cale felt the cool evening air on his skin, heightening his senses. As they approached the east side of the fortress, Zorla pointed to a narrow door hidden behind. Thick vines, here it is, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. This door leads to the servant quarters. Can sneak in and find the prince. Cale pushed the door open slowly, trying not to make any noise. It creaked slightly, but they slipped inside without alerting the guards. The dimly lit corridor was empty, and Cale could see the faint glow of lights coming from various rooms. Follow me, Zorla instructed, leading the way. She moved with confidence, her small frame navigating the tight spaces with ease. Cale admired her bravery. Despite her appearance, she was proving to be a valuable ally as they walked through the halls. Cale listened for any signs of danger. Suddenly, they heard footsteps approaching. Cale quickly pulled Zorla into a small alcove, pressing against the wall. 2 guards passed by, chatting casually, unaware of the intruders hiding just a few feet away. Did you hear about the prince? One guard said. Zoroth plans to marry him off tomorrow. It's going to be a grand event. Cale felt a surge of anger. They were running out of time. He glanced at Zorla, who looked concerned but determined. Once the guards were out of sight, they continued down the corridor. We need to find the prince's room, Zorla said, looking around. It should be nearby. They reached a door marked with ornate carvings, a sign of its importance. This must be it, Cale said. He tried the handle, but it was locked. Do you have any tools to pick the lock? Zorla nodded and pulled out a small device from her pocket. She knelt down, working quickly to unlock the door. Cale kept watch, listening for any approaching guards. After a few tense moments, Zorla smiled and turned the handle. The door swung open quietly. Inside, they found Prince Alaron sitting in a chair, looking disheveled but alert. His eyes widened in surprise when he saw them. Who are you? He asked, his voice filled with confusion. I'm Cale, a mercenary, Cale replied, stepping forward. And this is Zorla. We're here to rescue you. Prince Alaron looked at Zorla, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Brought an alien to help me? Zorla is our best chance, Cale said firmly. Shh. Anyone? We don't have time to argue. Need to get out of here before Zoroth finds us. Alaron nodded, realizing the urgency of the situation. Right, let's go. Cale quickly freed the prince from his restraints, and they moved cautiously through the room. Follow me, Zorla said, leading them back to the corridor. They retraced their steps, but as they neared the exit, they heard voices approaching. Cale's heart raced as he recognized the sound of guards. We need to hide, he whispered urgently. They ducked into a nearby storage room, pressing against the wall as the guards passed by, talking loudly about their duties. Once the guards were gone, Cale turned to Zorla and Alaron. We have to get out of here now. If they see us, we'll be trapped. Zorla nodded, her face serious. There's a service tunnel at the back of this room. It'll lead us outside. Lead the way, Cale urged, and Zorla moved quickly to the back of the storage room. Pushing aside crates to reveal a hidden door, they slipped through the door and into the dark tunnel. The air was cool and musty, and the sound of water dripping echoed in the darkness. Cale felt a sense of hope. They were finally escaping as they made their way through the tunnel. Zorla led them carefully, her small frame darting ahead. We're almost there, she said, her voice filled with excitement. Just a little further? After what felt like an eternity, they reached the end of the tunnel. Zorla pushed open a wooden hatch, and they emerged into the moonlight outside the fortress. Cale took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the mission lift from his shoulders. They had escaped, but the danger was far from over. We need to find somewhere safe to hide, he said, looking around. We can head to the forest, Zorla suggested. It's dense and will help conceal us from any searching guards. Go, Cale said, leading the way as they sprinted toward the trees. The adrenaline coursed through his veins, and he couldn't shake the feeling that they were still being hunted. But for now, they were free, and that was enough. Together, they would find a way to defeat Zorath and save the prince from a fate he did not want. As Kale, Zorla, and Prince Alaron sprinted into the dense forest, the sounds of the fortress faded behind them. The trees stood tall and silent, their leaves whispering in the breeze. Kale felt the cool air against his skin, and with every step, he felt more alive. He had escaped Zoroth's fortress, but the danger was far from over. "Where should we go?" Alaron asked, glancing back nervously. "What if the guards find us?" "We need to find a safe place to rest and plan our next move," Kale replied, scanning the area. "There's an old cave nearby, a place where I used to hide when I was younger. It should be far enough from the fortress." "Lead the way," Zorla said, her eyes bright with determination. They moved quickly through the underbrush, following a narrow path that wound deeper into the forest. The sunlight filtering through the leaves created a dappled pattern on the ground. Kale felt a strange sense of peace in the beauty of the forest, but he knew that they couldn't let their guard down. After a short walk, they reached the entrance of the cave. It was hidden behind a thick curtain of vines, almost as if nature was trying to protect it. Kale pushed the vines aside and stepped inside, followed closely by Zorla and Alaron. Inside, the cave was cool and dark, with the faint smell of damp earth. Kale lit a small torch he had taken from the fortress, illuminating the space. The flickering light revealed rough stone walls and scattered rocks. It was small, but safe for the moment. "Let's rest for a bit," Kale suggested, relief washing over him. They settled on the ground, catching their breath after their narrow escape. "We need to come up with a plan." Alaron looked at Kale with gratitude. "Thank you for rescuing me. I didn't think anyone would come for me." Kale shrugged, feeling a sense of camaraderie forming. "You're a prince. It's my job to help. But now, we need to think about how to defeat Zoroth." Zorla spoke up, her voice steady. "I have an idea. If we can find allies among the other soldiers, we might have a chance. Many of them are unhappy with Zoroth's rule. They want to fight back, but they need a leader." Kale nodded, feeling a spark of hope. "If we can gather enough support, we could plan an attack on Zoroth's forces. But we need to be careful. Zoroth has spies everywhere." "We should send out messages to the soldiers," Alaron suggested. "They know we're alive and fighting back. They may join us." "Good idea," Kale replied. "What we need to ensure our communications are secure, can't risk Zoroth knowing our plans." Zorla's eyes lit up. "I can help with that. I know where some of the soldiers gather when they're off duty. I can sneak out and talk to them without being seen." "I don't want you to put yourself in danger," Kale said, concern creeping into his voice. "What if Zoroth's guards catch you?" "I can handle it," Zorla insisted, her determination shining through. "I've worked in the fortress for years. I know how to move without being detected." Kale looked at her, seeing the strength behind her words. He realized that Zorla was not just a helper. She was a crucial part of their plan. "All right, but we'll need to have a backup plan. If anything goes wrong, you get out of there." Nodded, grateful for his trust. "I promise. I'll be careful." As they discussed their plans, Kale felt a sense of unity forming among them. They were no longer just a mercenary, a prince, and a servant. They were a team, ready to fight for a common cause. Once they finalized their strategy, Zorla prepared to leave the cave. "I'll go now, while the guards are changing shifts. Stay here and keep a low profile. I'll be back as soon as I can." Kale and Alaron watched as Zorla slipped out of the cave, her small figure disappearing into the shadows of the forest. The weight of uncertainty settled on Kale's shoulders. He felt both proud of Zorla and worried for her safety. "Do you think she'll be all right?" Alaron asked, breaking the silence. Kale nodded, though doubt lingered in his mind. "She's strong. She knows what she's doing. We just have to trust her." As they waited in the cave, Kale's thoughts raced with possibilities. If Zorla could gather allies, they might stand a chance against Zoroth. He glanced at Alaron, who was deep in thought. "What will we do if we get more soldiers?" Alaron asked, looking up. "How do we confront Zoroth?" "We'll need to be strategic," Kale replied, feeling the weight of leadership settle on him. "We must hit him where it hurts his supply lines, his men. We can't let him regroup." Alara nodded, determination growing in his eyes. I'm ready to fight for my people. Kale smiled, feeling a sense of pride in the prince. They were all in this together, and with Zorla's help, they would find a way to defeat Zorath and reclaim their freedom. As the minutes passed, they prepared for the challenges ahead, united in their quest for justice. The cave was quiet as Kale and Alarin waited for Zorla to return. The flickering light of the torch cast shadows on the walls, creating an atmosphere of tension mixed with hope. Kale paced back and forth, his mind racing with thoughts about their next move. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. The fate of the prince and their mission depended on their actions. Do you think Zorla's okay? Laron asked, breaking the silence.
Eyes.
His voice was filled with concern. And Kale could see the worry etched on his face. She knows what she's doing, Kale replied, trying to reassure the prince. She's been in the fortress for years. If anyone can gather allies, it's her. Alara nodded, but still looked anxious. I just wish we could do more. I feel so helpless sitting here. We'll have our chance, Kale said firmly. Once Zorla returns, we'll be ready to act. We can't rush things and risk being caught. Just as Kale finished speaking, they heard a rustling sound outside the cave. Both Kale and Alarin tensed, their hearts racing. Kale quickly grabbed his weapon, ready to defend themselves if needed. The sound grew closer, and Kale motioned for Alarin to stay quiet. Suddenly, Zorla appeared at the entrance, her face flushed with excitement. I'm back, she announced, her voice a mix of relief and joy. Did you manage to find anyone? Kale asked, lowering his weapon. Yes. I spoke to a group of soldiers who are ready to join us, Zorla said, her eyes sparkling. They are tired of Zoroth's rule and want to fight back. They're gathering at a safe location tonight. Kale felt a rush of hope. That's fantastic news. Where do we meet them? There's an old warehouse on the outskirts of the city, Zorla explained. It's abandoned and should be safe for our gathering. We can plan our next steps there. Let's go then, Kale said, feeling a surge of determination. We need to get there before Zoroth's guards realize we're missing.
Oh.
Trio quickly left the cave, moving swiftly through the forest. The moon cast a silvery glow on the path ahead, guiding their way. Kale felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were no longer just running from danger. They were preparing to fight back. As they reached the edge of the forest, they could see the city in the distance, its lights twinkling like stars against the night sky. Kale led the way, his heart pounding with anticipation. They had a chance to make a difference, and he was ready to seize it. Once they arrived at the warehouse, Kale pushed open the heavy door, and they stepped inside. The interior was dark and dusty, but the space was large enough to accommodate their group. Kale lit another torch, illuminating the room and revealing the scattered debris and old crates. This will work, Kale said, looking around. Now we just need to wait for the soldiers to arrive. They didn't have to wait long. One by one, the soldiers began to filter in, their faces showing a mix of determination and fear. Kale felt a sense of responsibility as he watched them gather. These were the brave individuals who were willing to stand up against Zoroth. Once everyone was inside, Kale stepped forward to address the group. Thank you all for coming. We're here because we all want to see an end to Zoroth's tyranny. Together, we can make a difference. The soldiers nodded, their expressions reflecting their shared resolve. Zorla stood beside Kale, her presence a reminder of their unity. We've already made some progress, Kale continued. We've disrupted Zoroth's supply lines, but now we need to plan our next move. We can't let him regroup. A soldier in the back spoke up. The plan? How do we take the fight to him? We need to gather intelligence on Zoroth's forces, Kale replied. If we can find out where he keeps his troops and supplies, we can strike at his weakest points. Zorla chimed in. I can help with that. I know the layout of the fortress and where the guards typically patrol. Can sneak back in and gather more information. Are you sure that's wise? One of the soldiers asked, concern in his voice. What if you get caught? I'll be careful, Zorla assured them. I know how to move without being seen. If we want to succeed, we need to take risks. Kale looked around the group, gauging their reactions. He could see that many were unsure, but also inspired by Zorla's bravery. We need to trust each other, he said. Zorla has proven her loyalty. She can gather information. It will give us a better chance in the fight ahead. After some discussion, the group agreed to Zorla's plan. Kale felt a sense of unity forming among them. They were all in this together, and they would fight for their freedom as one. As they prepared to leave the warehouse, Kale felt a mix of excitement and fear. This was just the beginning of their fight against Zoroth. Together, they were ready to take the next step in their journey, united by a common goal and a fierce determination to reclaim their lives. As dawn began to break, Kale, Zorla, and the assembled soldiers stood in the dim light of the warehouse. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation and fear. Today was a pivotal moment. They were about to take the fight directly to Zoroth. Kale felt a rush of adrenaline as he gathered everyone around to finalize their plan. "Listen up, everyone," Kale called, standing tall to command their attention. "Today, we strike at Zoroth's forces. We need to disrupt his operations and show him that we will not be oppressed any longer." The soldiers nodded, their expressions serious. Zorla stood beside Kale, her presence a reminder of their unity. She had proven herself invaluable, and he felt grateful for her courage. "Our first objective is the supply depot on the outskirts of the city," Kale continued. "Zoroth relies on these supplies to keep his forces strong. If we can sabotage them, it will weaken him significantly." A soldier named Yarrick spoke up. "What's the plan for getting inside?" "The guards will be on high alert after our last attack." "Zorla has a plan," Kale replied, looking toward her. "She knows the routes the guards patrol. We can use her knowledge to create a distraction while we infiltrate the depot." Zorla stepped forward, her voice steady and clear. "I can sneak into the depot first and create a noise to draw the guards away. While they're distracted, you can enter through the back entrance." Kale could see the concern on the faces of the soldiers. "What if something goes wrong?" one of them asked. "What if you get caught?" "Well, be careful," Zorla assured them. "I know how to blend in and avoid detection. Trust me, this is our best chance." Kale nodded, feeling the weight of leadership on his shoulders. "We trust you, Zorla. Just remember to watch your back." After finalizing the plan, the group moved out of the warehouse and into the early morning light. The city lay ahead, its buildings casting long shadows on the ground. They moved quietly, staying close to the alleys and avoiding the main streets, where guards might spot them. As they approached the supply depot, Kale's heart raced. This was at the moment they had trained for. Zorla led them to a hiding spot near the back of the building. "Wait here," she said, her eyes focused. "I'll create the distraction." Kale watched as she slipped away, her small figure disappearing into the shadows. He felt a mix of pride and worry. Zorla was brave, but the danger was real. They all knew what was at stake. Minutes felt like hours as they waited, the tension building in the air. Kale glanced at Alaren, who looked anxious but determined. "Are you ready for this?" Kale asked. Alaren nodded, his expression serious. "I've never fought in a battle before, but I know we have to do this. My people are counting on us." Just then, a loud crash echoed from inside the depot. Kale's heart jumped. "That's our signal," he shouted. "Let's move." "Wait!" rushed toward the back entrance, pushing open the heavy door. Inside, the depot was chaotic. Guards were rushing to the source of the noise, leaving the supplies unguarded. Kale led the soldiers in, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "Get to work," he commanded. "Start destroying the supplies. We need to make this count." The soldiers sprang into action, opening crates and tossing their contents to the ground. Kale moved quickly, helping to dismantle the supplies. The sound of clattering crates filled the air, and he felt a sense of exhilaration as they worked together. Suddenly, he heard footsteps approaching. "We've been spotted," he yelled. "Get ready to fight." Kale grabbed his weapon, preparing for an attack. The guards burst into the room, shouting and drawing their weapons. The soldiers quickly formed a defensive line, ready to face the threat, protect the supplies. Kale shouted, urging his team to hold their ground. The guards charged forward, and chaos erupted in the depot. Kale fought fiercely, using all his training to defend his comrades. He could see Alaren fighting beside him, his determination shining. Despite the fear on his face, Zorla reappeared, having successfully drawn more guards away. "I created a diversion outside. We need to finish this quickly," she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Keep fighting," Kale yelled, feeling the momentum shift in their favor. The soldiers worked together, using their training. To outmaneuver the guards, Kale felt a sense of unity among them. They were no longer just individuals, but a true team. As the last guard fell, Kale looked around at the devastation they had caused. The crates lay scattered on the floor, and the supplies were in disarray. They had successfully disrupted Zoroth's operations, but they needed to get out before reinforcements arrived. "Let's move," Kale shouted, leading the group toward the back exit. They rushed out of the depot and back into the streets, their hearts racing with adrenaline and triumph. As they regrouped in a nearby alley, Kale felt a surge of pride for what they had accomplished. They had struck a blow against Zoroth, and more importantly, they had proven that they could work together. "We did it," Laren exclaimed, breathing heavily. "Yes, but this is just the beginning," Kale replied, looking at Zorla and the other soldiers. "We need to keep fighting until Zoroth is defeated. Together, we can reclaim our freedom." With renewed determination, they prepared for the next phase of their mission, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the group gathered in the alley, the adrenaline from the fight still coursed through their veins. Kale, Zorla, Alaron, and the soldiers exchanged glances, filled with a mix of triumph and urgency. They had successfully disrupted Zoroth's supply depot, but they knew the warlord would retaliate quickly. "We need to find a place to regroup and plan our next move," Kale said, scanning the street for any signs of danger. "Zorath will send his guards after us. We can't risk being caught. I know a safe house nearby," one of the soldiers, a tall man named Rion, said. "It's an old hideout we used to use before Zorath took over. We can lay low there for a bit." "Lead the way," Kale replied, feeling a sense of urgency. They quickly made their way through the narrow streets, staying close to the shadows. The city felt different now, more dangerous and alive with the possibility of their rebellion. As they approached the safe house, Kale couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. They were fighting back against oppression, and every small victory brought them closer to freedom. Rion pushed the door open, revealing a dimly lit room filled with old furniture and supplies. "Welcome to our hideout," Rion said, stepping inside. "It's not much, but it's safe for now." Kale nodded, grateful for the refuge. "Let's regroup and discuss our next steps," he said, motioning for everyone to sit. Once they were settled, Kale looked around at the faces of his companions. "We've made a significant impact today, but we need to keep the momentum going. Zoroth won't sit idle after this," Alaron spoke up, his voice steady. "What if we target his command center next? If we can take out his leadership, it could cause chaos among his forces." "That's a good idea," Zorla agreed. "But we need to gather more information first. We can't just rush in blindly." Kale nodded, appreciating their insights. "We need to find out where Zoroth's command center is located and how many guards are stationed there. Zorla, you have the best knowledge of the fortress. Can you sneak back in and gather intel?" "I can do it," Zorla replied confidently. "I'll go during the night when the guards are changing shifts. I know the routes well enough to avoid detection." "Be careful," Kale warned, concern flashing in his eyes. "We can't afford to lose you. I'll be cautious, I promise," Zorla said, determination in her voice. "This is our chance to turn the tide." After discussing their plan, the group spent the rest of the day resting and preparing for the night ahead. Kale felt a strange mix of hope and anxiety. They were on the brink of something significant. They had the opportunity to change their fates as night fell. Zorla gathered her things and stood at the door, ready to leave. "I'll return as soon as I can," she said, looking at Kale and Alaron. "Stay safe." "Good luck," Alaron replied, his concern evident. Kale placed a hand on Zorla's shoulder. "We'll be waiting for you. Remember, we're counting on you." Zorla nodded and slipped into the darkness, her figure disappearing from view. "Shh." Kale watched her go, feeling a sense of pride in her bravery. They were fighting for their freedom, and Zorla was a crucial part of their team. As the hours passed, Kale and Alaron took turns keeping watch. The atmosphere was tense, the silence broken only by the occasional sounds of the city at night. Kale felt a weight on his shoulders, knowing that their next move could change everything. When dawn approached, Kale felt a surge of hope. They had faced challenges before, and they could face this one too. Suddenly the door creaked open and Zorla stepped inside, looking both relieved and excited. "I have news," she announced, her eyes shining. "I managed to gather information about Zoroth's command center." Kale rushed to her side, eager to hear what she had discovered. "What did you find out?" "There are fewer guards than I expected," Zorla explained. "Zoroth has been spreading his forces thin, trying to maintain control over the city. If we act quickly, we can catch them off guard." Kale felt a rush of adrenaline. "This is our chance." "How many guards are stationed there?" "About 10. But they're not all focused on the entrance. If we create a distraction, we can slip in and take out the command staff," Zorla said. Kale swelling. "Let's plan our attack," Kale said, feeling the excitement build among the group. "We can't let this opportunity slip away." As they discussed their strategy, Kale felt a sense of unity among them. They were ready to fight for their freedom, and together they would take the fight to Zoroth. With each passing moment, their resolve strengthened, knowing that the time for action was drawing near. Once they finalized their plan, the group prepared for the battle ahead. They gathered their weapons and supplies, ready to face whatever challenges lay in their path. This was their moment, and Kale was determined to lead them to victory. Together, they would reclaim their lives and bring an end to Zoroth's reign of terror. As the sun began to set, casting an orange glow across the city, Kale and his group gathered at the safe house. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation. They were on the brink of a battle that could change everything. Kale looked around. At the faces of his allies, Zorla, Alarin, and the soldiers, each one was ready to fight for their freedom, fueled by the hope of a better future. "Tonight is the night," Kale said, his voice steady. "We have a chance to strike at Zoroth's command center and weaken his grip on the city. Remember our plan? We create a distraction, slip inside, and take out his command staff. We must stay focused and work together." The soldiers nodded, determination shining in their eyes. Zorla stood beside Kale, her expression fierce. "I'll lead the way inside," she said. "I know the layout and I can guide you to the command room. Just follow my lead." "Let's move out," Kale commanded, feeling a rush of adrenaline. They left the safe house, navigating through the dark streets, sticking to the shadows to avoid detection. The city was eerily quiet, but Kale could feel the tension in the air as they approached the command center. When they reached the outskirts of the command center, Kale could see the guards patrolling the area. "Remember, we need to create a distraction to draw them away from the entrance," he reminded the group. "Zorla, are you ready?" Zorla nodded, her eyes focused. "I'll sneak around the side and set off an alarm. That should get their attention." Kale felt a mix of pride and concern for her safety. "Just be careful, we can't afford to lose you." "I'll be fine," Zorla reassured him. "Trust me." With that, Zorla slipped away into the shadows, moving silently toward the side of the building. Kale watched her go, then turned to the group. "Get ready. Once we hear the alarm, we move in." They waited in silence, the tension building as time passed. Kale could hear his heart beating in his chest, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Suddenly a loud alarm blared through the night, piercing the quiet. The sound echoed off the buildings, and Kale felt a surge of adrenaline. "Now," he shouted, leading the group toward the entrance of the command center. They rushed forward, moving quickly but quietly. Kale felt a sense of purpose. This was their chance to take back their lives. As they entered the building, Kale could see the chaos unfolding. Guards were rushing in different directions, trying to respond to the alarm. "Stay close," he commanded, pushing through the corridors. Zorla had bought them precious time. They reached the command room, and Kale kicked the door open, stepping inside. The room was filled with maps and monitors displaying various parts of the city. At the center of the chaos stood Zoroth's command staff, their faces filled with shock. "Who are you?" one of the commanders shouted, reaching for his weapon. "Your worst nightmare," Kale replied, charging forward. The soldiers followed him, ready to fight. The room erupted into chaos as Kale and his allies engaged the command staff. Kale fought, fiercely using every skill he had learned as a mercenary. He could see Alarin fighting beside him, his determination shining through, even in the heat of battle. "Take them down," Kale shouted, his voice cutting through the noise. We need to disable their control over the city. The soldiers worked together, coordinating their attacks and covering each other. Zoroth's command staff was caught off guard, and they struggled to fight back. Kale could see the fear in their eyes as they realized they were outnumbered. Suddenly, one of the guards managed to break free and rush toward a nearby communications console. "We need backup," he yelled into the radio. "Not on my watch," Zorla shouted, quickly moving to intercept him. She tackled the guard, taking him down before he could call for help. Kale felt a rush of pride for her bravery. With the last of Zoroth's command staff defeated, the room fell silent. Kale and his allies stood panting, their hearts racing. They had done it. They had taken control of the command center. "We need to secure this place and send out a message to the city," Kale said, glancing around at the monitors. "We can rally more supporters and show them that Zoroth's reign is over." Alarin looked determined. "Let's send a message to every corner of the city. We need everyone to know that they can stand up against Zoroth." As they worked together to send out the message, Kale felt a sense of hope rising within him. They were no longer just a group of rebels. They had become a force for change. The tide was shifting, and they had the power to inspire others to join their cause. With the command center secured, Kale knew they had taken a crucial step toward freedom. They had faced their fears and fought for what was right. As they prepared to leave the command center, Kale looked at Zorla and Alarin, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. Together, they would reclaim their lives and bring an end to Zoroth's tyranny. The battle was not yet over, but they were ready for whatever came next. United in their fight, they stepped into the dawn of a new day, prepared to face the challenges ahead and change their world forever.